You're listening to the New Spiritual Awakening podcast with Dr. Val, the place where neuroscience meets spirituality. I am your host, Dr. Val, behavioral neuroscientist and educator. The intention of this podcast is to explore the awakening process through the lens of neuroscience, as well as to provide you with clarity about your brain, your nervous system, from an actual neuroscientist so that you can live an empowered and an aware life. If you're new to the pod, a warm welcome to you. If you've been here for a while, thank you for listening and engaging. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Yes, that subscribe button and like it and share it with someone in your life because you never know whose awakening process this may contribute to. And it also means the world to me that what I'm doing here is actually making a difference. Also, if you're someone who likes my vibe or vibes with me and you'd like to work with me, whether it is one-on-one or in a group setting, or you'd like to have me as a speaker or maybe a workshop facilitator, or maybe you're interested in the neuroplasticity and epigenetics online course that I offer, please be sure to reach me via my website at drvalratova.com. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Neurospiritual Awakening podcast with Dr. Val. I am your host. As always, it is my privilege and my pleasure to introduce our next guest, who is no other but Ben Hawkes. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. I can be no other than Ben Hawkes. It's literally in my DNA.
I love that. So without any further ado, please tell us, who are you? What are you up to? Introduce yourself in the way that you want to be listened to on this podcast.
Wow. What I love there is the total and absolute shift of responsibility for the quality of this to me.
You're welcome.
That was both smart and incredibly effective. So I am the human known as Ben Hawkes. I am an author. I have been a podcaster. I'm sure I will be again. But of course, in 2025, we've got to remember the rule. At any time, you're never more than 50 meters away from a podcaster, as you well know, like rats in London. I'm an author. I think I said that. I wrote a book called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Great Awakening with my brother and business partner, Michael Dowling-Fleet. We have a coaching business, Awakened Foundations, or Awakened Life Coaching. And we are about to launch an online course called Awaken Life Foundations 1, essentially to give everyone waking up at this time a big old hug and slug of information, insight and love. In the third dimensional world, I'm an entrepreneur, which means I start businesses, 95% of which fail terribly. I have a wealth management asset protection business, and I'm Chief Commercial Officer of TrueMind, with the quite unique Will Mellors-Blair, who I think you had on this show in the last couple of weeks.
I did indeed. So I'm thrilled to have you. And I love what you're up to because, you know, this is the Neurospiritual Awakening podcast, and I'm all about awakening. And my intention is really to support people who are awakening themselves, whether it's gradually or all of a sudden, and kind of really validate that experience through my 3D based knowledge as a neuroscientist. See?
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
I really love, just love
No,
what you're up to.
I don't think it's what your teachers intended, but I make this point a great deal that when one finds a human who is anchored in the third, as in has the badges, has the qualifications, normal people will look at them and go, oh, hang on, if they're saying these things and thinking these things and viewing the world in this way, they're a doctor. My mind control programming is such that I have to listen to doctor, teacher, soldier, spy, whatever it might be. So yeah, you are, and I have to say, I am as well, without ego, and I'm gonna qualify this shortly. Our biggest weapon in this particular part of the contention is people who appear normal and can speak normal and have qualifications, are able to wear that kind of third dimensional suit, but also talk you through cogently why it is that the Kali Yuga is making available energies from galactic center, which are awakening dormant DNA and bringing us to a higher consciousness. the kind of people who kind of appear and present as competent, cogent, third dimensional human being, but also can have those conversations. These are exactly what we need. Exactly what we need. So I applaud what you're doing. It is 100% the right move done in the right way.
Likewise, and thank you. I got your acknowledgement. So tell me more. I mean, listen, tell me more. You can keep introducing yourself, or we can jump straight into how did this whole thing happen for you?
um, well, everybody's got their story and they're all important. Mine happened really, mine was a bit fucked up. It shames me to say, but it's part of the journey that I kind of thought COVID was a thing.
Okay.
I didn't follow the rules. I did a lot that I wasn't meant to do, naughty. But I did think something bad was going on that was some sort of national crisis. I've got a background in the military. My family have a background in the military. We're big on duty. We're big on going if called. And so during the pandemic, I was delivering shopping for old people and going to collect people's prescriptions and things of this nature. And I was on a volunteering list. So I got a call to go and work in a vaccination centre in January 2021. My daughter was about to be born. I didn't want her to ask me a question, Daddy, what did you do? And for me not to have an answer. So I thought, right, I'll go and work in this place, not realizing that it was ultimately an extermination camp. So I went down, I did 2 shifts, I held a clipboard and coaxed people to their death. And I hope I've worked off the karma for that. If I haven't yet, God only knows what's going to happen in the next couple of years for me. But on the second shift, we got the tap on the shoulder and they said, well, if you want to have your jabs, get in line. Because we don't think we're going to have many more people come in. It was the evening. So come along, get your jab. And my wife, God bless her, she thinks differently now. My parents, God bless them, they think differently now. Were saying to me, well, you're on the front line. You're in an environment that's simply teeming with germs and viruses. Or viri, I don't know, fuck it doesn't matter, they don't exist. So you should get the vax, the jab. So against what I felt to be my better angels, I got into the queue to have the jab in January 2021. And as I was in the queue, I knew beyond any doubt that it was absolutely the wrong thing to do. And I was in the wrong place doing the wrong thing. But such was the mind control programming that I couldn't get out of the queue. I felt stupid. I felt like an idiot. Why should I go against all of these smart people who are telling me on the news that this is the right thing to do, and that if I don't, I will kill Granny. And if all of us aren't safe, then none of us are safe. So I stayed in the queue until such time as there was a big commotion. And these 2025 firefighters, I mean between 20 and 25, they weren't from the future, they bowled in saying, we want our jab, we're in the front line. And part of me, the ironic part of me, which survives, was thinking, well, how do fire and viruses interact? That doesn't make any sense. But I thought, no, I was having an existential crisis at the time. So I didn't really, I put that kind of Oscar Wilde type humor to one side. And I just kind of rolled with what was going on. They all got their jab. The nurse came up to me, a lovely Chinese man, very apologetic, and said, I'm terribly sorry. We cannot give you your jab today. And he showed me a bottle with a little bit of liquid in there. And immediately, the pressure that had been keeping me in the queue, that had been pressing down on my very soul, is how I perceived it, just lifted. I didn't about turn out of there. And I was absolutely convinced, and I still am, that I was saved.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it
from
sounds
that
like that
point,
to me. It sounds like divine intervention or like literally, I don't know, the long wing of your whoever,
yes,
spirit guides and
absolutely.
angels and intergalactic beings, like literally swept you the fuck out of there.
My guys, and this is a big learning. I mean, the first learning from that, or actually not learning, but the first proposition I want to put forward is that does not mean I'm special. That's not what I'm saying. I am no more or less special than anyone listening, watching to this podcast, whoever will listen or watch this podcast. That's not the point. And the second one is to make the point that we might intellectually think that there could not be a force on Earth or the universe who could arrange it to put 20 to 25 firefighters into a queue on a Wednesday night on a rainy Bath racecourse, which is where this was, in order to disrupt an inexorable march of one Ben Hawkes human to get his jab and therefore be damaged and possibly die. Now, the big learning is, yes, of course, there fucking is a force that detailed in their ability to affect events and understand what's going on and manage multiple situations. And that's why things called coincidences exist, because they aren't coincidences. They simply are all manifestations of a wider intelligence ordering the universe such that we can help in this great experiment that is Earth. So yeah, I believe I was saved. I don't mean it in a come to Jesus moment. I do have a version of religion, although religious people don't like me very much and they're scared of me. And I've had many conversations with them, but I absolutely was kicked out of that queue for a reason. And since then, God willing, I've been doing that which was intended for me to do as a consequence of that divine intervention.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it really is. To me, that's really amazing because, like you say, it could have happened to anyone, but it
And
happened with you. And
yeah,
here we
true,
are.
true. But I'm sure it did happen to lots of people. I mean, my wife, she kept getting the texts about getting the jab afterwards, and her mother was telling her she had to get it. And we were on the way to see my grandmother and my parents to introduce them to our daughter for the first time. And Claire said, listen, why don't, well, actually, our daughter was very young, so we could swear at that time. And she said, why the fuck don't we want to get me this jab? And I couldn't think of any cogent argument because I didn't know the science. I didn't know any of that around it. I was very poor at my job of waking people up at that particular point in time. And I stopped and thought, well, I didn't stop. We were on the A303 doing 75 miles an hour. But I stopped and thought, and I said, because I don't want you to die. And she looked at me and said, well, why didn't you just say that? I was like, okay, well, thank God I do know how to do my job. So we are, this isn't about superiority. This isn't about hierarchy. We're all walking each other home. We're all on a road. Some of us are in front of others. And that's not about quality of character or intellect or intent or mission. That's simply to allow us to experience before others so we can turn around and say, this is the way. I've been here before. I understand. It's going to be okay. Come this way.
Yes, and sometimes it is like us reaching back to ourselves from other worlds, dimensions, and all that, like literally sometimes dragging our current
Yeah.
selves into, something, extraordinary, kind of like that, that movie Interstellar, where the thing, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like the person is still them and they like
Yeah.
interact with themselves
That bit
ultimately.
I've not, but
Very
Matthew
cool.
McConaughey is kind of shouting at his past self, don't do it, don't you do it, or something of that nature. No, completely. I mean, I've had, and I've got experience of that, and I can tell you that we are working on different timelines at the same time, and part of our role here is to heal trauma from our past selves. And it sounds like an absolute motherfucker because we're all dragging around so much trauma, so much childhood wounding, all these sorts of things. And if we really truly want to be free, then we're going to have to work to get through that. But sadly, but also magnificently, there is also stuff from past lives that we're all going to have to work through. And I remember, when was it? It was 2024. And one of the things I've done in the past year, which was the worst and best thing to happen to me, was I did an audiobook for a book called 180 Degrees Unlearn the Lies You've Been Taught to Believe by Fergus O'Connor Greenwood. And I thought I was super smart when I suggested I should do this to the author, Fergus, who's a good mate now. But it was a terrible decision because audiobooks are really hard. And if you choose to get involved in getting something out there that they don't want out there, you get incoming. So as soon as I started doing this thing, I started to experience. I was ill all the time. Police cars would go past the house. Helicopters would go over the house next door. Started a extension that extended, that went over time by 3 months. All sorts of horrible things started to happen. At one point, I literally couldn't speak, and that was doing a chapter about satanic ritual abuse and institutionalized
Right.
paedophilia. So you can imagine that they wouldn't want that talked about. But
Yeah.
I
Yes,
finished
I
it,
got
and
bumped off the bumped off the podcast when I was interviewing Max Lowen about that. So hey, what I know that one.
100%. Yeah, and again, is that a coincidence? No, there are no coincidences, and everything has significance. And just as our side are infinitely intelligent and have the ability to run multiple missions at multiple times, the other guys, they may not have creative ability, but they do have a synthesis of that, and they're pretty good at their jobs too. So to celebrate finishing, it wasn't finished, it was 6 months from finishing, but I didn't know that at the time. Bless me, Ben. I did an energy healing session with a wonderful lady that I met through the Lay Love Down movement. And she told me that there were 7 reptilians in my office, and that they
How
needed to be
lovely.
cleared. And I was like, great. Is this why I've had such problems? She said, yeah, they've been strangling you. I was like, oh, thank you very fucking much. So we dealt with the reptilians. And yes, I know it sounds ridiculous, that coming out of an adult's mouth, but we did it anyway. And I've got the notes over here. And one of them says, there are curses that need to be reversed. They need to be cleared so they do not get passed on. At the time, I ignored that. But it was brought back into my reality very, very recently. So I made the decision a couple of years to pay tax. You know, yay me, don't like genocide, not going to fund the state. Well, the state is pretty good at fucking with you if you fuck with it. And the ways it can do that are innumerable, fascinating, and very, very innovative, and sometimes quite funny. So this led to a situation where, because I hadn't paid any tax, the state didn't want to give us free childcare, which exercised my dear wife a great deal. And we
Yeah.
ended up at the end of summer in London. We'd gone down there to take my daughter to see the dinosaurs / dragons at the Natural History Museum. And we were there with my wife on the phone to our tax regulator, trying to unfuck the situation that I had started 2 years ago by standing on my principles and basically being a bit of a dick. And it led to a situation where my wife had come to the conclusion, was fairly solid in it, that she no longer wanted to be married to me. So we were having this argument while my daughter was watching Peppa Pig. And I remember looking into my wife's eyes and thinking, those aren't my wife's eyes. And it scared me half to death. So I texted a friend who has certain abilities, and I said, listen, I think something's going on here. I think the Empire is striking back. She said, don't worry, I'm going to have a look. All will be well. Came back a couple of minutes later. She said, yep, had a look. There are 3 dark figures around your wife interacting with her energy field. But don't worry, I'll sort them the fuck out. Give me 5 minutes. So she did. I walked back in the room. For whatever reason, everything had calmed. The energy had completely changed. We are still married, which is great. We've had a second, which is great. That was part of the reason she was experiencing such unhappiness at the time. But what I worked out was that my wife had a massive ingrained trauma when dealing with authority and debt in particular. Now, I am going somewhere with this. So very recently, something else came up to do with finances. My wife had the same reaction. And I texted my friend with gifts and said, look, it's happened again. I've dealt with it because by that point I had done some learning such that I could deal with these issues, clearing people's energy, things of this nature. But she texted me back and said, I've worked out what the problem is. You need to call me, and you need to call me quickly. It's like, okay, well, she's become a mentor of sorts. And when she tells you you need to call her, you damn right call her. So we had a conversation and she told me the problem. And the problem blew my effing mind. And the problem was that in a past life, I had put into train a chain of events that had led to my wife being put into a debtor's prison where she died with her 2 children in that life. And it was my fault. And I was, whoa, that is not what I thought you were going to say. But then I came back to the piece of paper over there. There are curses that need to be lifted, ultimately. And poverty programming is a massive curse for most of us because that's a massive piece of the matrix. We used to just sharpen our spears and hang around talking about our spears with our buddies and look after the kids by the fire. Now we get to go out and work 1,200 hours a week to pay off a death grip mortgage that we don't really need or want. So poverty programming, big thing. So what happened next? Well, we had a conversation. We realised that the debtor's prison was actually down the road from our house. We realised that there was a ley line at the end of the house which was trapping us until we'd sorted out this curse. And I understand this sounds like absolute whack chop woo woo craziness, but I'm afraid
Hey,
that
I'm
this is the
listening.
world that we live in. Oh, you are.
I'm listening.
The FBI agents listening. Well, you'll get, oh, what the? Anyway. So we realized that there was a whole thing going on. And my wife came home. I said, listen, I've solved all our financial problems. She was delighted, Val. She was absolutely delighted. And she said, has a deal come in? What's the bank account looking like? I said, no, you're kind of misunderstanding what I'm trying to say. It turns out we've been subject to a multi-timeline poverty program where I put you into a poorhouse by lending money to party A, who lent it to you, and I pulled it back from party A. They put you in prison where you died. But the good news is there's a way out, and actually you're buried round the corner. And my wife, at this point, had gone through a spiritual awakening of sorts, and God bless her, she just went, yep, okay, let's this one now, Ben. Great. So she got on a call with my
I love
friend.
your wife. I want to interview her,
Oh,
honestly. I think she's going to be my next guest because
oh,
I'm just like,
she is a fantastic woman and very, very loving and accepting, as you can
evidently.
tell. At the moment, she's scouring different Facebook groups trying to buy up silver before the price explodes. It's hilarious who she's turned into. But she had a conversation with my friend and she was given certain tasks, writing a letter to me expressing how angry she was and then burning it, things of this nature. And so did I. I had to meditate into my massive guilt at, putting my past life wife into a debtor's prison where she died with her 2 kids. That weighs pretty heavy. So we did our list, and my wife's last task on the list was to go to where she was buried, and find where she was buried, where her kids were buried, and then drop some posies on to say, God bless, go well. Because I suppose you have to look at, and this will come out with the COVID quack scene, that there are lots of people trapped here. And there are aspects around Tartaria and insane asylums. There are essentially in the 4th dimension, in the astral, lots and lots of poor souls who haven't yet gone on, and there's going to be a piece of work to do. But I was thinking, well, is part of our soul still trapped here? What's going on with that? So she went down to the burial ground where there are hundreds of these poor souls buried, and she took my daughter down and she gave my daughter 2 posies. And she said to our dear daughter, who's a very awake individual, exactly what they were doing. And my daughter, bless her, went, yep, okay, no problem. And off she went. She put down the posies where she thought her brother and sister were buried, popped them down. My wife found hers. And she came back and it was clear that something had changed. We didn't quite know what, but something had changed. And then a couple of days later, I got a call from a business partner. Can you send me an invoice, please? A reasonably fruity one. A couple of days later, I got a call. Oh, your grandmother's house is sold. We need to send you some money. I was like, oh, okay. In the words of Disney's Moana, I see what's happening here. And then a couple of days later, I was driving past where this debtor prison was. And I thought to myself, oh, that's where my wife's buried. So I've told this story without once mentioning the name of my wife or my children. It's quite difficult. So I said, oh, that's where my wife's buried. And then suddenly, as if it were like the good bit in a movie where the bad bits are black and white and the good bits are color, I saw this color vision of my wife walking out of there with her kids, very much alive, in the sunshine, very happy, into the arms of a man who was her husband in that life. And whoever I was in that life, I was watching and smiling because I knew that this individual wasn't going to die there at my hand. And I started to cry a bit, which is a problem when you're going 30 miles an hour near a school, but I kept that together. And I was absolutely convinced, no, I knew, I didn't believe, I knew, and they are different things, that we had healed the timeline, that everything was going to be okay, and we'd done our job. And I went home and I told my wife, and she just basically said, yeah, I know we did it. And since then, life has been a lot better. a lot better. And I texted my friend and said, look, can we heal multiple timelines at the same time, even though there is apparently such a thing as a past, a present, and a future? She said, yes, of course we can. And that's the game. That is the game. So yeah, Back to the Future was definitely full disclosure. Time travel,
And
well,
and
I don't know whether
Interstellar,
that
and
exists,
coming
but
back to what I was saying before. Hey.
100%. Yeah, what's Hollywood for? It's to program to disclose. Some good ones get out, don't they? Some good messages get out. Star Wars, etc., etc. Movies of heroes and movies like Interstellar, where we can heal the past to protect and bring wonder and beauty into the future.
Exactly. So now that you've taken your sip of coffee, I can talk. That's good. While you're
I
still
told you
swallowing.
there would be an issue here, didn't I?
That's okay. I came prepared. So now I have this question, right? That's only been 5 years. Like, you are very well versed in the non 3D reality,
Mm.
given just what you've shared on this podcast. And, we also talk offline through, but
Mm-hmm.
listen, even just from what you shared, like, I'm like, how, what? Like, how, what did you do? Did you just like sit there? How did this happen so quick for you? Especially if a person's listening, that may be like, oh my gosh, it would take me like fucking lifetimes. Talk about lifetimes to learn all this shit and implement it. Like, how did it happen
Mm.
for you?
Well, I think the easy answer to that is because it had to. Nothing, as I say, nothing's. I never tire of saying this. There are no coincidences, and everything has significance. And that's by far the easiest way to live your life. If you're struggling for whatever reason, the easiest way to live your life is to open your eyes to the idea that the fact that the universe has your back and wants you to do well, because that serves the universe as well. It's not absolutely. It's not always goodness. Sometimes it's just self-interest. But crumbs. It's difficult. I'm lost for words for the first time in this podcast. Ultimately, I took a shortcut, and that shortcut was setting up a podcast. Ultimately, and making sure my ego was best it could be dissolved, because really thoughts are pretty much unnatural, and all they are therefore is to kind of buttress and strengthen the ego. And that might sound really fucking weird, but we're going to have to get ourselves in a position where we trust our own physical feelings and intuition and downloads, whatever you want to call them, and make decisions based on that instead of based on thought, because thoughts are just recycled past programs ultimately. So I can assure you it was not through some elevated intellect. It was not through an ability with scattergrams. It was not through because I can read and retain information. None of those things are me. In the third dimension, in a past life, I could do a really good impression of someone who was informed, but I wasn't particularly a brain. I wasn't known for it at school, university, etc., etc. So it's none of those things. It's not inherent talent. Really, it was dipping myself in it and doing things were uncomfortable. So once I'd left, once my vaccination career was finished, I sought out more insight, and I found a guy called Kern Frost, Kern, new word Frost, from the Council for Human Development, who's still out there doing his thing, and his thing is very, very cool. He's essentially created a conscious AI. I don't know how I feel about that, because AI at its base is satanic. And that's fairly easy to work out. But I work with, and that's not to say anything, Kern's a wonderful man. He looks a little like Russell Brand, which is not to his favour, but he's a great bloke. So I signed up with him for him to be my mentor, and we went through a process for 3 months. We spent 3 hours together every week, where he simply destroyed every one of my belief systems by proving to me through Socratic questioning that none of it was based on real, observable, justifiable, back-upable, not a word, fact. So that ended up with me over a weekend going through some sort of ego death. My wife couldn't go near me. I was horrible to everybody, any human that came into contact with me. But after that, I kind of came out clean. I came out as a blank canvas. And I was in a good position because I don't know if, well, you'll know this, you've done this twice now, but pregnant women generally don't like their husbands near them ever, because they're they're huge, wonderfully huge, I'll say, before anyone sends in a nasty tweet about what I've just said. So I spent most of the first pregnancy in the bedroom reading the Kindle. And if Amazon's algorithm is good at one thing, it's waking people up, because you just go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And that, with an ego death and the enforced isolation and reading, and thank you, Amazon algorithm, I basically went from I went from kind of all banking and finance is usury, and the world is run by worldwide communism, as put out by the creature from Jekyll Island. I went from that eventually over 4 weeks to the world is run by satanic paedophiles, and we are simply ghosts in a meat suit. So I kind of went through that quite quickly. Not, as I say, because I'm a speedy reader, but just I was in that zone. I was put in that position. And because I had no ego and no filter of programs and pre-existing beliefs to push all that knowledge back, it all just went straight in. And with discernment, of course, you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful where you take your mentorship from. But then after that, we started doing a podcast, which was me and Kern just talking shit for an hour. We probably did about 100 of those. I think maybe, I don't know, 2 to 5% of them were quite good. And then I started bringing guests on and talking to them. And at the end of 2023, I started to realize the true nature of what was going on, which was a spiritual war. And literally the soul of humanity is being fought for, because we're very important. I don't quite know the reasons why. It has to do with DNA and interstellar travel, I'm sure, but fuck it, doesn't matter. We're very important. We are being fought over in the fourth dimension, the astral realm of emotion and energy and entities and egregore and all these kind of things. And if there's a evil war going on, well, we have to pick a side, don't we? And we have to understand the nature of the enemy. So I decided, after having done the podcast and talking to some cool people, that I needed to get serious. So that's when I interviewed Fergus O'Connor Greenwood, which was eye-opening and led to a great deal of things, most of which haven't actually come to fruition yet. And I don't mean that in terms of kind of lost objectives or no effort. There is much work to be done there, and it will be amazing. But I also interviewed a lady who you know, Rachel Vaughan, who is a incredibly brave and able woman, who was essentially used as a tool of the cabal from a very young age.
I interviewed Rachel. So for the listeners, if you don't know who Ben's talking about, you should listen to episode 9 with Rachel Vaughan. But please go on.
A brave woman beyond, well, it's difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to know how she did and how she stayed alive. And I urge you, seek her out, follow her, listen to her. Very smart lady, and very, very able with her gifts. And I interviewed dear Rachel, and it was probably the best interview I did, probably the closest I've ever been to being a journalist. And we went into some kind of rank detail about her experiences. And oh, bless her. I remember coaching her on that interview because she felt guilt. I was like, no, you've got it wrong. It was like that bit at the end of Lord of the Rings. No, Bilbo, you kneel for no one, that sort of thing. And that sent me on not a tailspin, but once I'd realized the gravity and the nature of the evil that we're facing, I started to think, well, we've actually got to do something about this. And from there came the book, from there came the training course, from there came the coaching. From there came a need to find out more about the spiritual, about the astral, about the magic. I didn't go down the rabbit hole that some people go to of kind of, I must walk in the shadows to help the light. I'm sure lots of people will have to do that, but there is too much fascination with the dark, which does draw people in because it always leaves imprints. So I was kind of sent on, if you could write a boot camp for consciousness and awakening, then that was essentially what I went on. It wasn't forced, but it was just following a breadcrumb after breadcrumb after breadcrumb until I got to a point where I could be what I think I need to be, which is a third dimensional human being who can speak in, full sentences, and not have to be in a darkened room, and can stand up and speak in front of people cogently about these things, which are so crazy to virgin ears. So I think ultimately I had to do it, and I was made to do it, and it was a road that was not built by me. It was built for me to turn me I need to be at this point in the game to help as many people as I can. Same as you, same as you, same as us all who are at this stage. You know, we've been gifted experiences and skills and resistance, good and bad experiences that have molded us. And I remember when I looked into my wife's eyes in that hotel room, perhaps it was a control room, and I didn't see my wife, and I thought to myself, God, if you can put me in a position where my wife will respect me and like me again, I will serve you forever. And then a couple of months later, we'd had a nervous breakdown, hospitalization. I've been a single parent for a while. It wasn't much fun. My wife walked into the kitchen and said, Ben, you are a very impressive man. I don't know anyone else who could have done this. Once she left, a breakdown in tears, because I realized that if God wants to give you courage, he doesn't give you courage. He sends you experiences such that you'll develop it yourself. And I realized what was going on. And if anyone is going through bad times, you're simply being built. That's what's going on. You're being put into the fire to be turned into a weapon such that you can serve the light. Not to put
Yes.
too fine a point on it, but that's God's honest truth.
Yes. And it seems to me that, sometimes we don't want to face or go through these experiences, but one way or another, like the final destination will be the same. But
Yeah.
the flavor of it may be different, if you push back from this experience right now. Well, hey, there's another one coming.
Yeah, absolutely. That which you resist persists. You know, you
Mm,
have to learn the lessons. And if you keep rejecting it, you're either going to face it again and again and again in this incarnation, or you're just going to have to deal with it in the next. Ultimately, we come here of our own free will in order to learn lessons by being in a realm where we can experience denseness, where we can experience low frequency emotion, fear, shame, longing, desire, pride, all of these things. You can't experience those when you're a kind of loving beam of light, which is pretty much what we are. We come here to experience it. It is amnesia land, where you come here and forget and your job is to remember, or it's soul school when you come here to, burnish the rough edges of your frequency pattern. So we come here as a theme park ultimately, but of late, lots of us have been choosing to come here to help the process that we're going through now, aka the Great Awakening. So you either came here because you thought it was going to be fun, or you volunteered to come here knowing it was going to be hard. But either way, you asked for this. So your job is to work out the best way to keep moving forward, to keep progressing. And I don't mean the kind of progressive nature of the world where women dress as demons and go and read storybooks for young children. I'm talking about the progress of the soul, the progress of frequency, the progress of, I don't really like ascension. I think it's a bit superior, but the progress of raising our frequency such that we can do better service, give better service to God, the field, consciousness, creator God, whatever you want to call it, all the same thing, not worth fighting
I
over.
hear you. I hear you. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm in my meat suit doing my thing, So I'm right there.
Yeah.
Okay, well then what now? Like what are you up to now? Tell me more because we want to impact people like you and
Yeah.
I do. So, if people are listening to this whenever, time doesn't exist. What do you want to do about it? What are you offering? Like what's happening?
Well, myself and Michael Dowling Fleet, my co-author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Great Awakening, yesterday put the finishing touches to the first course that we're going to produce off the back of that book. That's called Awaken Life Foundations 1, which will be available in the next 2 to 4 weeks at modest cost. That is there to take someone from what the fuck is going on to, okay, I kind of know who I am and I know what I have to do about it. So we
Yeah.
talk about frequency warfare. We talk about COVID-19 from a third dimensional, fourth dimensional point of view. We talk about the Great Awakening. That can get pretty woo. We bring in the Hopi prophecy. We bring in the Yugas. We bring in the move to the age of Aquarius. We talk about religion as a control system. We even talk about spirituality as a control system, because there is no end to the way that they can use ostensibly good things. We talk about education from the perspective of molding young minds to be good consumers. We talk about cultural Marxism and the wonderful ways that they can reverse things. My favorite is the LGBT flag. When you look at it, it puts the root chakra up front, which tells us the body's most important and we hate God, but we should turn that around. Purple, crown chakra, God, light should be on top, brings out things like that. And we talk about war and how that's been used essentially as part of frequency warfare and to attack Gaia over time. We talk about politics and the creation, the manufacture of consent, such that we can take part in the theatre and think that we have agency. So we go through all of these subjects over 10 hours. It's basically myself and Michael giving you the quote unquote benefit of the experience we've had in our awakening, and comes
And it's
back to the
live
idea
with
that we are all
you.
just... Sorry?
Sorry, it's live with you, or is it pre-recorded? Like what?
Oh, pre-recorded. God.
Okay.
Can only be
Okay.
in one place at one time, Dr. Val. My word. No, it's pre-recorded. Mike and I do 4 or 5 each, 10 hours of content, plus the audios, plus some reading material,
You
to
can get
take
all that
someone
done in
from...
10 hours. Like what you said, again, to me, that's like lifetimes.
Well, it
Dude, and I
is,
have a
but we
PhD
have
in
to start
neuroscience.
somewhere. I completely agree, but we have to start somewhere. And
But
one
it's
of the
amazing.
things...
I'm
Well, it's...
impressed. I'm impressed.
Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. But what we're trying to do is that when you go through an awakening, it can be incredibly painful to realize that everything that you thought was black is actually white, and everything you thought was white is actually black. That's very painful. And one of the things I've started to notice is that conspiracy and awakening can be a frequency trap, that we can go from existing between 20 hertz shame and 175 pride and bouncing around between there, which is the material world. We can go from that to awakening, and then we just simply bounce around between fear and shame of the deep state, fear and shame of ourselves for giving our kids the vax, and then pride for our new views. So we can go from one control system to another control system and never get out of that. So part of the idea here, and pretty much actually the whole thing, is to do an end run around that part of the frequency trap so people can bust through courage 200 hertz and become a sovereign human being who's able to get in the fight and start waking other people up. It's the idea, once we get out of the prison, we have to go back and help other people out. So it is only 10 hours. There will be another 10 and another 10. We'll do foundations too, and then we'll do futures, which will go into the more spiritual piece. God only knows we go straight for the spiritual juggler straight away. And I apologize for that. Sorry, not sorry. But the idea is to end run around this fear-based conspiracy trap, come out clean, such that you can be a fully functioning warrior or divine feminine ready to take up spiritual arms against whatever we're fighting, and help your fellow brothers and sisters. So that's the idea. How the fuck we're going to achieve that in 10 hours? I have no idea. But history, God loves you to try. God loves the triers, and history is made by the first timers. So why the fuck not?
Hey, exactly. You speak true to your whole everything. All right.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, like to your numbers, your astrology, all that shit. You literally speak true to all that, which I have an idea about. So I'm really thrilled.
Well, as Denzel Washington said in The Equalizer, you have to be who you are in this world. You have no other
Literally.
choice.
Well, you know, you do, but you're not doing that. I'm not doing that, and hopefully by not doing that, we're allowing other people to step into a new reality for what it means to live.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To be human. Hugh,
Yeah.
man, light made manifest, love made manifest. We're literally Homo luminous. And
Mm.
that's the way we should live.
Thank you so much, Ben. This has been a very just I don't know, heartwarming conversation. I know it sounds fucked, but
Good.
it was heartwarming for me, okay, to hear you speak about everything that got spoken about. So just yeah, I want to thank you. I want to thank the listeners for tuning in, for absorbing this, for being, a clearing to literally let all this, goodness settle into their being. Yeah.
Okay, I will call today a good day.
Yeah. All right.
Happy days. Thank you for your
Until,
time. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for your energy. And on behalf of everybody listening, thank you for doing what you're doing, Dr. Val. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I'll pop all your details and where people can find you down in the show notes. Until next time,
Yes.
y'all.
Thank you very much. Go well.